just gonna make something quick before I go to bed. Is the plan anyway. Now this, I'm probably gonna focus more on the male necromancers. And I want to do this for Thorns builds in the future as well, but I'm having a hard enough time just leveling up a couple of characters and learning the game. But I got a few ideas for Thorns on Warriors and Mercenaries right now. But I'm not sure which warrior class is going to be the best. It's because it got that Jade skill that no one uses. Because the Titan has access to extra armor, which would be extra thorn damage, and it has the 50% bonus to whatchamacallits. Small passive tree. So you could get more thorn damage, more armor, more block chance. All that sounds good, but then the Warbringer gets access to default armor break on the warrior from hits, which I think might apply from thorns. So if the thorns can break armor, then you'd be able to infinitely chain thorns with scavenge plating, which I think would be really nice. And then it has a couple of tank options or something in that ascendancy. If you wanted to use totems, it does like 20% of your damage to you to the totem instead. You can get like 3 totems. So that's potentially 3 big hits that you could avoid. But the big one's the Jade, because everything I showed on Jade, people say that no one uses it. But the Jade on the Warrior basically says that it gives you 10% bonus armor for each stack that you have. And then the ability online, let's see. This is what interests me about Warbringer with Thorns. Armor break equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. So if your Thorns can apply hit damage and then Thorns can break armor, then you can break armor and apply your Thorns, and then imploding impacts, you can go below 0, which means that your Thorns would get aggressively more damage over time the longer that you're applying your Thorn damage to something. Which I kind of like that idea a bit better than the Mercenary that I'm building, where it has to do with like coal and all that. But the Jade stacks 1% physical damage reduction per stack, so you get like 10 stacks of this, so you get 10%. And Encased in Jade consumes all stacks of Jade for a buff for a duration that absorbs all damage from hits up to a maximum based on the amount of Jade consumed. While encased, you cannot move or perform actions, but you could still apply Thorns, I would assume. If you getting hit applies thorns with this, then that would be the best case to use it for. So totems and thorns together would potentially be very good. And this says that you get 566 damage per jade consumed. So you can get 5,000 something damage there. But you get an additional up to 70 damage per jade consumed with the quality. So it'd be 630. So you're looking at 6,030 shield or something for like 4-second duration. The question would be, how do you get more jade stacks while you're in combat would be my question. But my thinking with this is that if you had a warrior, and it brings into question this stuff down here. So 35% less block chance, can block damage from all hits while shield is not raised. No one really talks about this, or they said it's not good or something. But if your shield isn't raised, you can block damage from all hits. But you don't have to block the damage to apply thorns. But thorns procs on melee attacks. There's a helmet that you can get that can make your thorns proc on any hit. And then this, you don't need this, but basically this would allow you to block damage and not take excess damage for no reason. And what I think with Turtle Charm would be, if you were going to use this, I'm curious about the ancestral spirits. I don't know, but I would use the same thing that I'm using on my mercenary. Poison arrow, break their armor, jump in, consume the armor, go into a second armor break, and then your thorns and your shield ability would be breaking their armor of 10% of the damage dealt. And then your thorns should, I would assume, continuously break armor and do additional damage. And then you just have to consume the armor break whenever you need to reset and get more thorns. And then this will let you block while not having your shield raised. I'm assuming that works with Jade Heritage. So if you encase yourself in Jade for 4 seconds, instead of getting hit by everything, you'd be able to block all hits with the shield. But you'd have to have a very high block chance. And then on the tree, because my idea is basically to mix Jade, Skin, and Thorn damage, and then the Warcry ability that explodes all corpses around you for 25% of their health. So you jump into a mob, your Thorns kills all the enemies, then you explode all their bodies all at once to do massive amount of damage to something. But there's things like this where recover 20 life when you block. And then there's another one over here that does 6 life when you block. So you can get 26 life per block on those. And then there's another one right here that gives you 2 mana when you block, which isn't really a whole lot. But considering blocking, it only really costs mana. And, well, I guess normal blocking is free. So you can cost mana or it can be free. And then there's another one way over here. 10 mana gained when you block. So that would give you 16... Or wait, it would give you... You have 26 and 16, so you'd have... Or no, that was 2 over here. Yeah, 2. So you have 26 and 12. So you'd have 38 health, potentially, that you could gain per block. because then you'd have to make your way over to this. All damage is taken from mana before life, 50% less mana recovery rate. Sucks that you use the mana recovery rate, but you're a warrior anyway and you're using thorn damage, so you don't necessarily care about mana if you're using thorns, I wouldn't assume. And then mana regens, where health doesn't really regen as much. I mean, at least this one regens easier. You can find amulets and stuff that regen your mana like 20%. But then you also have your health pool and your mana pool become your life pool, basically. And then you get your mana pot and your health pot are basically both health pots. So you're getting twice as much regeneration off of both pots using them at the same time. Twice as much of your flask filling up. And my thinking is, I don't know if energy shield could play into this, but it would basically be you jump into combat, you're fighting, boom, 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 your thorns and stuff are proccing, you lose your health. So let's say that your mana drains down, your health drains down, boom. You block or whatever, you're blocking, your mana and your health would regen back up from the blocks, getting like 30 something per block. So say like 10 people attack you, you block all 10, boom, 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 you get 300 health back. And you're, that's a good chunk of health or whatever. But then like you're gonna get staggered or whatever. So then you pop your jade skin for 4 seconds, gives you like 5,000, 6,000 shield, and then your shield could also block while you're encased in jade, assuming that's how that works, which would then regen your health and your mana, conserving your mana flasks and your other thing, and then if you ever were going to get like one shot by an enemy or something, I don't know what the max level of like health and mana and all that stuff you would have, but let's say you had like 5,000 health and 5,000 mana, and then you had 5,000 jade shield. That's 15,000 total health that you could pop, and then all the blocking that you get, like all the random blocks that you would get from being able to block without having your shield up, would also translate to more health. That's what I'm thinking. And then I don't know how attacks work with leech, but it would be interesting to see if you could make leech work with thorns, because that would also give you more health per second back. When you deal damage from a hit, leech causes you to recover amount stated resources equal to percentage of damage that you dealt. But I'm not sure what would give you the leech. But that's my thinking on if you wanted to make a warrior build, or like a thorn build that's more warrior focused. I think you could do it for either one of the classes, but I feel like Warbringer would be better for the maximum like defensive shield tankiness thing, AoE damage, and then the other one would be better for, I don't know, probably just like raw upfront damage. I don't really know. But let's get back to the necromancer thing, alright? So, this is just do 2 for 1, alright? So, necromancer trees, here's what I'm seeing right now. So, if you go for the sorcerer, or the, witch, all of these are like minion trees, and that's, you probably have the strongest path with the sorcerer, or the witch, out of all the classes right now, to be honest. And then if the paladin or whatever shows up over here in the future, maybe that would be like a kind of a close second, because there's like this gap right here. So I could see the paladin being pretty good, maybe, especially since it has minion stuff right here. Yeah. The mana regen rate would be really good. Because there's a whole bunch of mana regen rate. Yeah. All of that could be turned into health regen. Interesting. But there's a few options here. So this is like one of the main branches. So this is my highest level necromancer that I have right now, which is a Titan. I am split right now on if I want to continue leveling the Titan or not. Basically, here's the benefit of the Titan. Right here, you get 4% increased strength, which would give me more health. The carry a chest that gives you 20 additional slots is really good. And then 4% increased strength for more health. And then 50% increased effect of all small passive skills, which I'm assuming that's going to be all of these. So all of my minions would get another, 5% additional damage off of all of these nodes, which would be really good. And then, so that'd be another 5, 5, 5, 5. So it'd be like a massive damage bonus. This would be a whole bunch of more 5s, 5% more health, because all I'm stacking is health and damage on these guys right now. And I think it would even give me more percent chance not to consume the corpses, but it doesn't really affect this tree right here. So I'm a little split on this. I don't know if it affects these traits, probably not. But my thinking is, with this class, you get health regen, which is alright, 15% more max life, which would be pretty decent, and then you can get more armor and more armor, which none of that really matters to a necromancer. So like this main part would be like right here. The armor would be good later. This right here, max life, would potentially be good if you wanted to come down here and grab this, depending on how much life regen that you get, or like how much life you have on the character. I'm very curious about this, because depending on how much life you get at the end of the game, like say I had 5,000 life, I mean, that's 10 life, so you'd have like 50 life per second that you could give to all the allies in your presence, which would be pretty good, I think. I mean, I'm not a Path of Exile's genius, but that seems like it'd be pretty alright. But the 50% increased effect of small passive skills, I think, is potentially really powerful here. And originally, with this build, I kind of marked it out where I didn't plan on going over here at all. The original idea is because the warrior is spaced just enough to where he can grab all of these. He can grab all of these minion nodes all through here, basically. You can reach all the way over here to get zombies and stuff like that as well. But he can get all of these nodes here. And if you don't travel all the way over here for no reason, you can still take these in here. But if you don't take this extra little path here, you can go all the way down and grab these damage nodes down here. So you get 25, 10, 10, 10, 25, 10, and then there's another one right here. 25, 10, 10, 10, and then another 10. So in this little area, you can grab these two if you want to come all the way down here. And my thinking when I first made this character was that I wanted all of my minions to have the highest amount of health and the highest amount of damage possible. And then essentially I was just gonna like let my waves of minions run into people, fight, die, and explode and do a bunch of AoE damage, and then just keep letting them respawn over and over and over. But I'm not sure if I want to continue down that route or not, because this right here allows me to get an absurd amount of minions. Like, for me to run the zombie, get the power charges and stuff, I have to give up 30 energy. But for the cost of 30 energy, it's like one skeleton warrior, and I can get 10 zombies off of this. And since I'm not using corpses to summon the 10 zombies, and the 10 zombies I think do more damage than the skeletons do at the moment. And then this gives me 25% chance not to consume a corpse, and then I have another 25% chance on the unearth skill. I can get 10 zombies and like 16 little skeleton scorpions on top of my other warriors, which is really good. You know, the unearth skill is a little iffy. I don't use it all the time. There's not like a huge reason to use it all the time. But being able to summon the zombies and getting an extra 10 seems pretty good to me. Now, is it better than getting these extra damage here? Like, this is like, what is this, 50? This is like 110% more damage down here if I grabbed these. I don't know if that's better or not, to be honest. I do think if I did that, though, I would focus more on... I have a character that I'm wanting to make for it as well. But I would focus on these skeletal brutes.
Skeletal brutes are large, hard-hitting minions. They will stun any monster that has a near full stun meter.
That's what I'm thinking I would do with these guys.
Skeletal.
If I go for max damage, I feel like Titan will give you the most possible damage off of your minions. I really do. And I could easily see running just like a few skeletal brutes and just letting them beat the crap out of something. But I've also tried to use the thing that says that it gives allies in your presence rage on your walls, and it didn't look like it was affecting the minions. But if that was a thing as well, you could also give them like 30% more damage from rage, like AoE. If that does work, you could, because it's literally just a skill that's you can put on a wall, and it's just a radius. It'd be super easy to apply and stack it up on a minion. So there's like a whole bunch of damage potential that you could get on the warrior. And then my biggest reason why I like this class, though, is because my guy, you see, I have all of these slots I can hold loot, right? And then I have this slots that I hold loot. And since my necromancer is able to have, he stacks a lot of strength and intelligence because I'm running like shield wall and frost wall. Basically, the only strength skill I'm running right now is shield wall, but it gives you the option of quite a few skills if I did want to go back into like the mace, or if there was something here that I want. But originally this character was using the Infernal Cry to do like AoE burn and more explosion damage, because I was trying to just make it to where all my minions exploded and did a massive amount of AoE. Doing alright, Dalara. Welcome to the old chat. Now, basically with this character though, I get all of these extra 20 slots here, and since I'm running a necromancer and I'm only really caring about my minions, I get my second weapon slots as additional storage space, basically. So I get 2 free slots, which basically, you know, are this, and then I get all of these, and I get all of this. So it essentially just makes my character where I can go out and farm items and stuff for a while and not really have to worry about anything. I get a ton of storage to hold stuff, and that's probably my biggest benefit that I like of it, because it just means like I can collect a lot more stuff than other people do. And I've really noticed like things that like white items that people leave on the ground. So like say that I'm running this scepter and then I found a rattling scepter that's white on the ground. And a lot of people don't pick up the white scepter, but to me it's a white scepter is the same as a blue scepter to me. Not really in the sense of material gathering, but in the sense of searching for an item, because it just takes one of those little orbs that you find all the time to turn it into a blue item and just see if you get like a really good stat on it. Which having more space allows you to collect more of those random knickknack items that you can try and turn into something good. So I'm not really opposed to using those, right? It's the roll of the dice. Now, the other things I think here, and it is possible that when I make my other character and level him up, I might drop this on the warrior and go back in the other direction and grab these. I don't know. It depends on how the zombie thing works out, because I like the idea of using the skeletal brutes. Yeah, you can ask away if you want. So mercenary, I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting. What I'm curious about with the mercenary is they have the legionnaire, and so you get plus 10% quality of all skills, which means like for me, my skeleton warriors would have more block chance, and then my other minions would have more health, so I can get more potential quality out of them. And then plus 1 level of all skills would give me more minion level to be able to apply and deal more damage with my minions on top of whatever items that I had, which I like. And then they have like 3 additional skill slots, which I've noticed on my necromancer right now. Like, I wish I had more skill slots sometimes, because I don't have room for everything right now, and I would like to be running more spells and things like that. So like, I'm using a ring that gives me an additional skill slot right now on my necromancer. But like, so right now he has stone wall, ice wall, then the minions that he's using, unearth, and the zombie skill. You know, I have room for like one more thing on there, so I could easily fill up all of my skill bar. Yeah, that's all right. I don't know anything about logos and banners and all that stuff, and people always ask in here, so I'm not super crazy about it. I'm not getting super serious into the stuff. I'm just kind of making things. But the other things, you get 2 copies of a support gem that you can use in different skills on the Legionnaire, which is potentially, I think, kind of interesting, because, so say like my build that I wanted to use for exploding my minions, I could have that exploding minions on 2 of my minions, you know, instead of just 1, which would be interesting. And then requirements of gems can be satisfied by your highest attribute, which would be really good, I think, because then I don't have to like, because right now my warrior, he has to split everything in between intelligence and strength to keep both of his skills going, even though he could all be intelligence. You know, I don't have to use strength, but strength gives you more health. And from what I'm understanding is that if I take this, I could put everything into strength, and then I would just be able to have a massive amount of health on my character, and use my strength to apply those gems, even though I'd still have to have intelligence for the staffs and stuff like that. And then the bottom one, inherited bonuses from intelligence, strength, and dexterity are doubled, which I think would be very good. Just kind of interesting to me to be able to double those. And also, because this helmet that I have on my character right now, I want to try on that, because this increases your strength, dexterity, and intelligence. But basically, if I find items like this, if more of these exist in the game, and I get double the effectiveness of my passive trees for strength and intelligence and stuff, and then this, it basically just doubles this. So like, instead of 10% increase intelligence, it's basically 20% increase intelligence, which would be, it seems like it would be a very powerful thing to do. although I'm not sure exactly how I would use it yet, and that's kind of a problem. But then when we look at the skill tree down here, I think you could still make a necromancer work on the mercenary, but I feel like it would take more skill points than the warrior to get down here. So you would either have to cut straight from the mercenary to the warrior to this, which would take twice as many skill points. And you might be able to get this or this, but you wouldn't be able to get both of them probably, unless you cut some stuff from here. But you could travel all the way down here, and also they got this stuff in the mercenary tree, which I think is kind of interesting. So increased chance to inflict ailments. And then break 30% armor on enemies afflicted by ailments. Which right now, like, we're using a lot of cold damage and stuff to stack charges. But I'm finding that pin and cold damage on your minions is very strong because it peels everything off of you pretty well. But I think you could go down this path here and then cut straight down. And then cut across, and then you'd be able to grab all of these nodes here pretty early. That would be, hold on, let me look. You could go either direction here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you'd be able to get to this pretty fast early game before you leave Act 1 and grab this. And then you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 and grab this, potentially. So the real question here is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So probably instead of coming down this, go up 1, 2, 1, 2. Four, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that does 15. But they would still have to come through here anyway. Yeah, so you'd probably come through here, come down, grab this, then come this way, go up and grab this, or you would just branch off of here, go here, and then you could potentially try to grab this to give your minions 6% increased attack speed. And you'd have access to giving them life regen as well, 1% of your max life per second, which is why I'm interested on gaining twice as much benefit from strength, because that would increase your, like, AoE for the hill. But those would be the two nodes, then come across. You'd have to work your way through here and potentially grab these minion nodes here and then go up and follow this. But I don't think you would have enough to reach over here. So you would essentially have a mercenary with potentially high strength, intelligence, all of that. But you wouldn't have as many numbers on your side. And my thinking is potentially if I do that, I might be able to make like a melee necromancer, like something that's more frontline. I'm not sure yet. Because with that amount of strength, we might be able to put a decent bit of armor and health on. Maybe it's a bad idea. I'm not sure. Because I'm fairly certain you could get most of this damage stuff over here. But it really depends on how much quality helps. How much quality and how much the skill bonus, like 1 skill level for all of your minions and then 10% quality. I'm not sure how good that is on a minion or not. That's my biggest question with that. I can't really say. But the warrior can get a mix of both of these. It can go this route and grab all of these, and it can go this route and it can grab all these damage nodes. But I'm not sure what the best is. Probably the warrior might be better than mercenary, I would assume. You wouldn't be as tanky as the mercenary because it could get double the passive points. But is a 50% increase to small passive skill trees better than 10% quality and 1 skill level on a minion? I guess is the biggest question. That I'm not really sure. And if you know the answer, just tell me, like, send me a message or something, because I'm not sure and I need help making decisions. Now, the other thing that we're looking at is monk. So I think monk is pretty interesting because essentially after playing my warrior titan build for some time and figuring out that I can make free skeleton or free zombies and stuff and make a massive number of minions and things, it got me thinking a little bit more about what I was trying to build. And basically on that character, what has ended up happening is that I'm using Stonewall and Ice Wall for protection to keep everything from potentially getting to me. It's the only thing that's worked from keeping pretty much everything from touching me. And then potentially I could use totems to make it an additional wall, but I think that's a bit too much. But that character's using Ice Mage, Necromancer Ice Mage minions and the ice walls. The creatures run into the ice walls, they get chilled, they slowly get chilled over time. And then the Ice Mages are doing AoE bombs that also apply freeze and stuff, AoE. And then he's using the Comet skill, which does like 600 damage right now. And I have the support gem on it that basically lets it have a guaranteed critical hit every 4 seconds. So that combination is allowing me to basically just nuke and freeze a bunch of the enemies, and then I'd be able to basically grab more of them. Like I'd be able to freeze them, which peels them off of me, lets my minions do more damage, keeps my minions from taking more damage, and it gives me power charges that I can use to then make more minions. But I'm running into the problem where I don't have enough skills to be able to use. So right now, with everything that warrior has on him, the only abilities that he really has that's like a combat ability, you have Unearth and you have the Comet, and then maybe one other skill, which isn't really enough to do a lot of combos. And then the Mercenary, actually, though, could use all of those skills, So if you did manage to go from that side of the skill tree, from the mercenary skill tree over here, even if you dropped these and somehow like managed to make your way over, you would waste more skill points getting there. But the Legionnaire would be able to have 3 additional skill slots, which would be enough to put a combination of skills together to actually work for that character. And the skill that we're using is a monk ability or whatever, that anytime that you pin, freeze, or electrocute an enemy, you get power charges. And so we originally started with pin, and the pin worked okay, but it wasn't good enough at keeping monsters from getting us. And for the most part, we couldn't pin through our walls that we formed, so it was somewhat useless. And then the comet, it does good, but I can't combo the comet with anything else because I don't have enough skills to use with the comet to end up getting any benefit out of it. But the big difference is that the Unearth can pin, and that's something that we can use to pin to get charges, which is good. And it can go through walls. The Comet can freeze, which could give us freeze charges to make zombies. And then ideally, I would have potentially another ring that I could use on my character to then apply lightning or something, to apply electrocution to get charges from that. And it would allow me to have multiple sources of charges that I could get to make endless amounts of zombies in a fight, which would be really, really good, but very difficult to manage because it's very difficult to time when to use those abilities most of the time. And the other thing is that you have to be able to do enough damage to apply the electrocute or the freeze or the pin without actually hitting those characters. And also, if you're doing that, you have to have minions that can apply that damage as well. So it's very difficult because like these skeleton warriors, we put on cold infusion, so they gain 25% of fire damage as extra cold damage, but then the attacks deal 50% less fire and lightning damage. So I don't know what exactly what we can do, because unless you have different groups of minions, which you could, but this is only fire and lightning, so you could have cold damage and pin together and have 2 sources of charges, which would be good. And then you could have lightning damage on another group of minions. So on the necromancer, it would be the stormcaller minion. But that requires you to have dead skeletons or whatever for it to shock. But you could do that. So you'd have your front line that's primarily pin and cold, and then when they die, you could hit them with the lightning damage from your lightning mages, and then you could apply your skill and apply electrocution and get charges. And then you would have something else pop off, like your pin. You could use Unearth when they got close and maybe get some charges off of that, which would be good. So I only need like another ring right now on that character to get an additional skill to be able to apply electrocution. Maybe 1 or 2 skills, because I don't have any room for the electrocution minion right now, unless I get rid of a cleric, which I could do, because right now the cleric is so good at healing. Like on open world maps, the cleric is so good at healing that my minions don't really die. But in boss fights, the cleric kind of sucks. So it might be best just to get rid of them. But that could be a potential way for me to do it. But the problem is that I don't know how well that scales into the end game, because I'm not putting points into spell damage on the tree. It's all coming down to me timing the freeze correctly on the enemy minions in a combat fight. And I don't know how high I can get that damage before it actually tops out, and then my minions end up freezing things and stuff before I can get any more charges off of it, which would be the big issue. But when we're looking at the monk, it actually has a really strong minion start path here that I kind of was curious about. But one is down here, you can get from the start, you can get skill speed, 3%, 3%, and then you can get 15% critical damage bonus, 15% critical damage bonus, like really early. And then you get more cast speed here, which is good. And then you have damage you can get if you've dealt a critical hit in the past 8 seconds, which would also be really good. And you get 10% increased crit hit chance right here. So you could go down this crit line and have a whole bunch of extra crit damage. Not a whole bunch, but you'd have extra crit chance, extra crit damage, which would be nice. And I didn't even notice this. 15% increased critical damage bonus, 10% increased critical hit chance, 25% increased critical damage bonus. If you've dealt a non-critical hit recently, 20% increased crit hit chance. So this could be a really strong thing to have on this monk, potentially. So I might need to go down this route for the crit. My issue is I don't know, is crit damage by itself good enough for me to justify having it without high base damage? But essentially with it's like 12 or 14 levels starting off, you can go down this path here and reach this hub of stuff for minions, which I feel like this hub is potentially better than this stuff that you can get over here for all of the minions, because this stuff is good, and the witch would be able to get her damage bonuses here and then go straight across to it as well. So like this wouldn't affect the witch really, but the witch and the monk are both able to get to this node pretty quickly. But the monk seems to be more focused on being able to do crit damage here. And then you also have this where you can get increased chance to shock or extra lightning damage. But I think the crit damage would be the big one. And then you can look that you get access to faster minion revives, which is something that affects you really big as a sorcerer summoner early, is if you're focusing on your minions a whole lot and you don't have any faster revives, your minions die and then you get run down, and then you die. But this is 25% faster, and you gain 2% life when one of your minions is revived. And one of the big things my warrior had that was a problem early game was that I would be running out of life and my minions weren't reviving fast enough. So I had to put Fawn of Life or whatever on my shield wall and then use my mana from my shield wall to regen my life. And it was the only way that I could kind of buffer my life from my flasks and not have to use my flask so much, so I'd have extra life to do the boss fight. But this, I mean, right now I have 5 warrior minions early game on this guy. So that's already 10% of my life every time my minions revive, which adds up pretty quick. And then you can instantly get this 40% increased maximum life on your minions. So like this seems like a huge bonus to like tanky minions if you wanted tanky minions, which is kind of crazy. And then I think that what they're doing here is I feel like if you go for tanky max life minions, you get extra chaos damage, and that's basically your minions protect you, but you were dealing the damage. And then if you go for your minions doing the damage, you just veer off this way, is what it feels like. But you get all of this extra life and stuff that you can get. Like this is a huge amount of life, 10%, 20%, 30%. And then so 70% increased max life early game there, and 25% faster recovery. And then you go straight over here, 10% damage. So you can get like 30% here, but then the minion accuracy, I don't know how effective this is, but you can get a bunch of minion accuracy here. And then 20% movement speed for your minions. I don't know how good that is, but it sounds really good to me because they might be able to keep up with some of these creatures that are really fucking fast. The minions have increased 8% increased attack and cast speed, which that would also be good. And then you have your accuracy and 25% increased accuracy rating here. But what I would notice is that this is 8% increased attack and cast speed. I don't know how good that is, but I know that there's buffs that you can get on your monk. But from here, you can literally go up into this area here, and then just go left, and you get all of those damage nodes that we had on the warrior. And then if you go right, you get all of the power charge generation, and you get the not destroy corpses really quick. So like literally you can go through this tree, up here, over here, boom, grab that, you're done. Boom, grab that, you're done. And then you'd be able to have basically the same build my warrior has way earlier than my warrior achieved it. And I think that'd probably be better. And then when it comes to this, I don't think that the monk is going to be making it down here to these nodes. These are too far away. And then these over here, you know, it's 30%, 55%, and a 20% increased crit hit chance. This might be worth it for a minion. I don't really know. 50% increased damage, though, to travel that far for it, I'm uncertain about. But I know that you're going to want to come over here. So maybe it isn't too far away. But that being said, there is also a bunch of crit damage stuff over here, which I found pretty interesting. I don't remember exactly where it all is, but there's a good portion of crit damage stuff over here. Lightning skills. Increased lightning damage would be kind of interesting. Getting 5% of lightning damage is extra cold damage. That is interesting indeed. Because then we could freeze. We could freeze with our lightning, which might just be better. Does that mean we could put a lightning damage? This means that you could put a lightning damage support gem on a physical pinning skill. So if we have Unearth and we have boots that turn physical damage to pin damage, and then Unearth has a lightning support gem on it, and then that lightning damage is added as cold damage, you could have all three of those effects on one skill, which would be really interesting. Stuff like this, though, I think would be very, like, 15% increased freeze buildup. 20% increased freeze buildup. Getting 25% of cold damage is extra fire damage against frozen enemies. That might be okay, but I'm not really interested in that. Increased durations of shock, ignite, and chill, 10%. Chance to ignite. Increased free buildup. Increased shock, that could be good. 15% increased damage for each type of elemental ailment on enemy. So if we're doing freeze and shock, I know you'd have chill, shock, and then I'm guessing freeze, or no, I don't know if freeze and electrocute is an ailment. Or it is. So you can have chill, shock, freeze, so you could get like 3. Potentially you get like 3 of these on, so that would be a big damage bonus, potentially. Cold exposure, elemental damage increase, exposure effects. It's interesting because there's stuff like this, like, I wasn't planning on getting this on my minions, but 20% increase max life, and they regenerate 3% of life per second. I'm trying to find the ones I was looking for. Basically, somewhere over here, though, there are... Like, these are alright. Like, if we went for getting bonuses to our stuff... This would work really good with that other skill over there for crits. You'd be able to get 50% crit reduction. That's crazy. It's stuff like this that you can grab. Critical damage. So you get these 20% crit damage bonus if you haven't dealt a crit hit recently. That's what I'm really curious about. And then you get these crit damage bonuses here. And there's more of these around here somewhere. There's a whole bunch of them over here that's like... I don't know what a link skill is, but... Oh, this would be that thing that we have. Buff skills. Interesting. Stuff like this. Increased crit hit chance against enemies on full life. 20% increased crit hit chance if you haven't dealt a crit hit recently. Increased crit hit chance if you haven't dealt... Like, if you did this, you don't need that trait that is on the skills. Which is interesting. But basically, there's a lot of skills that you can get over here in these minion areas that have to deal with, like, break armor on critical hit with spells equal to 10% of physical damage. You know, like, there's, like, a bunch of things to do with crit hit chance over here. Chill duration on enemies, 30% magnitude of chill. Like, all of this could be good for the build. Increase cold damage, cold skills, freeze build up. Lightning damage per intelligence. That's nuts. I don't know. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff over here that I think you could use with crit. Just for, like, bonus stuff to crit damage. And even stuff like this, like increase free build up, increase chill duration, magnitude of chill. Like, this could be a good node. Oh, it's these. So stuff like this. 10% increased power charge. Or no, it's not. 20% increased crit damage bonus if you gained a power charge recently. So, like, there's stuff like that, but there's ones that's like 25% increased if you've dealt a non-crit hit recently. So, like, you get 25% crit hit bonuses, like stuff like this. But there's more of them around. I just don't know where they're at. Any case, my thought process is that crit hits should do more damage, which should apply more chill and stuff like that. And then when we look over at the ascendancies over for the monk, these are the things that got me thinking that monk could potentially make a good necromancer. And I'm not exactly sure how all these will work out, but lead me through grace. Gain 1 spirit for every 6 energy shield on equipped body armor, and gain 1 spirit for every 15 evasion rating on equipped body armor. Cannot gain spirit from equipment. Now, my question here is, can you get an equal amount of spirit on your body armor rather than other equipment. Because if you could, then that would potentially give me a very, very end game version of the build where I could apply other items. Let's say, like, even if I was still using a minion scepter for like 2 additional minions, could I say not have, basically it would free up my stats on that weapon to where I don't need bonus spirit on my weapon because I would have all my spirit from my armor. And that would let me be able to slide in an additional combat stat on my scepter. So I could have like 40% increased damage, 40% increased health, attack speed, and then like 15 additional cold damage or something on there. You know, and I wouldn't have to worry about extra spirit and stuff, which I think that would be a potential bonus here if that is how this works, depending on how much you could get from it. Because like reading it, it doesn't sound like much, but I don't know what in-game armor's like. And then here, protect me from harm. Physical damage reduction from armor is based on your combined armor and evasion rating. So I don't know how useful that is. Probably not super useful. Here's the other one though, is this meditate skill. I think is interesting. So this is kind of like the Jade skill, sort of. Channeling, 8-second cooldown timer. Channels to recharge energy shield. Can overcharge your energy shield up to double its normal maximum. Channeling ends when you take damage or your energy shield is double its normal maximum. Skill cannot be used if your energy shield is already doubled or normal maximum or you have no maximum energy shield. But what's interesting to me is at the bottom it says 78% more energy shield recharge rate. And then you have more energy shield recharge rate from quality. And I'm pretty sure there's a skill somewhere in the tree that turns your energy shield recharge rate into life regen or something like that. So in my mind, I'm wondering if you could use meditate as like a heal ability. Which would be kind of interesting. We need to look for that real quick. So, we'll look up like energy shield and then like life or something and see if we can find a tree node for it. But then we have I am the blizzard. So gain 10% of damage as extra cold damage on freezing enemies create chilled ground. So once we freeze people, we'd make chilled ground, which would slow other enemies and help us put more freeze on them and stuff. All that I think is a bonus. And then 10% of damage is extra cold damage. I don't know if that applies to, you know, cold damage that we apply. Do we get cold damage as extra cold damage or not? But something like this means that even if we were only using like necromancer skills or something, 10% of that damage is going to be cold damage, which means we can apply freeze without using comet, which I think is interesting because this means we don't need support gems to put freeze and electrocute and stuff on our spells because we could have them on our ascendancy. And then this one, 10% of damage is extra lightning damage, 25% chance to shock enemies, on shocked enemies to create shocked ground, and shocked ground shocks those standing on it and it lasts 6 seconds. So shocked ground, that's a damage bonus technically to our minions of like 30% damage or whatever. Shock does like 20%, you know, which isn't, you know, crazy, but it isn't nothing either. And then electrocuting potentially off of our skills. So our comet should do lightning damage, and our, you know, bone thing should be doing cold damage and lightning damage. So we should be able to apply a good amount of cold and a good amount of lightning randomly on enemies, which means that we could get potentially some shocks. And then they have this Unbound Avatar thing, which I think is interesting. You gain Fury by inflicting elemental ailments with hits on enemies. Once you reach maximum Unbound Fury, consume it to become unbound for a duration, vastly augmenting elemental prowess. Gain Unbound Fury when you inflict elemental ailments with a hit on an enemy, no more than once every 0.2 seconds for each type of ailment. So each ailment type can affect it. Maximum 100 Unbound Fury, cannot gain Unbound Fury while unbound. 40% more elemental damage while unbound. 40% more ailment buildup while unbound. 80% more chance to inflict ailments while unbound. And then it's for 10 seconds. So for me, that's meaning I get a lot more of what I was trying to use my skills for in the first place on my necromancer as soon as that triggers, which I think is interesting. And then some of this other stuff I don't know, like meta skill, like trigger skills. So I don't know if that would be useful or not. But here's the other one. Critical hits ignore non-negative enemy monster elemental resistances, which means that my spells that are going to be critting, at least when I use my one thing, or depending on how much crit chance that I have on my character, are going to be passing their elemental resistances, which means it doesn't really matter how strong their armor and stuff is or the resistances are. We're still going to be doing the same amount of damage, which means more freeze buildup and more electrocution. So that's why I'm kind of interested in this, because I feel like this version of the necromancer would be able to scale up harder than the warrior version, basically. And so far, like, it kind of sucks that I don't have as much, it sucks that I don't have as much, ability to, hold items and stuff, but I feel like this potentially has a higher end skill, like a ceiling, Although freezing enemies and making them explode does destroy their corpses sometimes. Like that. So you don't have a body to use. But I feel like I don't know how beneficial that is or not. Because I don't need the body to summon zombies. And then if I do need bodies, I don't necessarily need all of the bodies because I get like 50% chance not to use bodies on Unbound anyway, or the other one. So I don't think that I need to worry about it so much. But the cold damage is super strong, especially early game. Super strong. Like, if I was ever going to start another necromancer, which I am, the ice is so strong. Because, like this, you get 4 seconds or however long that lasts of just frozen. Really strong. Now, if we're able to combine that with pin and all the other stuff that we can get access to, it's gonna be nuts. But you see, this right here is what we can't do. Because we don't have enough skill slots on the other character, we can't do this. Because all the other character has access to is the comet. Which even this one, we're gonna have issues, so like we need one slot for the Ice Mage, one slot potentially for Comet, and then we had the Cleric. We might be able to, or no, we need the Zombies. So we had one slot for Zombie, and then we had Ice Mage, Cleric. So we might have room for it, but I don't know what we did on the other character to not. Well, the other character. We didn't have, the other character needs a lightning skill. Yeah, it needs multiple skills on the other character. That's where it's falling off. But AoE, this stuff is super strong. I don't know about this totem, man. I'm not supposed to be able to use it with my weapon, but for some reason it lets me anyway. We could get a cult, or we could increase. These don't really go up by a whole lot. But see, like, even if we used a lightning skill, I don't know what we'd use. Cause like ball lightning, 750% more chance to shock. Fires beams at targets within 1.8 meters. Maybe that's the best. Lightning strike enemies in a cone in front of you. Deals significantly more damage to shocked enemies, but consumes shock. Target closes to you will cause you to jump back as you cast it. 100% more damage with hits per 5% shock effect. I don't know. I feel like this character is going to have the best overall for, like, elemental skills. The warrior... I still like the idea of having the zombies on the warrior, but I could also see... I could also see swapping the warrior to the other minion. I just really think that the mercenary might be better than the other minion. Like, you'd lose the armor break. Yeah, you would lose the armor break. Because Warbringer does more damage to stunned enemies. Yeah, Warbringer does more damage to stun enemies. Titan, though, would give us the 50% increased damage. So if you wanted to have the highest amount of damage, it has to be Titan. I think. I don't like. Surely one level. These are level 3. These are level 4. How do we see the stats? Miscellaneous. Max life, but nothing about minions. Okay. Character screen. Skill panel. Is there no way to see my minions? Let's see if we can Google. fuck did he just do? The f Alt inspect. The fuck did that guy got? Like, what? What did he do?
A new year has started, and you've got a lot to look forward to. So let's make sure.
Hello everyone, Lid here. So there's a few people asking me about how I get my minion damage, and I want to make a video to explain how you can scale your minion damage. And one important thing is, on this video I will show you the number from the tooltips, and the number from the tooltip is not exactly accurate, I will say, because the number does go ups and down even though the variance is not that big. So if we have the software like part of building for POE2, we will have like a more accurate and more detailed informations on how the damage actually works. But that's for another video because the part of building for POE2 is not released yet. So this video will based on the number from the tooltip because this is what we have. So number one is minion skills. So minion is scaling really well with skill level. For example, this is level 35, I have 29.4, so this is almost 30k. If I take one level out, I have really well with skill level. For example, this is level is more detailed. Hello everyone, Lid here. So
Where the hell is he getting this thing at, though? Oh, I'm dumb. That makes sense. Okay, so this is level 4, this is level 3. Main hand total damage 2 to 5. What? Oh, wait. 10% increase minion life. Max life 408. Life recovery per second is 81. So these things actually have really good regen or something. Oh, that's crazy. Armor 80. 30% block chance. .408 life. Basic attack. Damage per second 11.24. 610. 11.24, 6 to 10. So it's like 20 or 30% more damage. But it would also be more life. $200 life. 40 regen. Now you're getting skill quality, which would give you more life, and you're getting minion level. But is that minion level end game, is one minion level end game going to be better than getting 50% more from every single damage node that I have? Like, because like, let's just one minion skill level, or just looking at this, you'd have, I don't know, let's just, so 6, 12, 18, 24, 30% increased damage here. Another 15% increased damage. 10% increased crit hit chance. 10% increased crit hit chance. 10% increased crit hit chance. So another 30% increased crit. All these health nodes. %7 increased crit damage. So like 14 crit damage. Another 15% damage. 15% increased life. Surely the warrior would be better. Gotta finish this and I'll go to bed. So strong. The only thing is that my other character can't use skills like this because he doesn't have enough skill slots. Like, look at that. All the bodies are destroyed though. If we do get to the point where we can't use the bodies though, I mean, it doesn't really matter though, because we could still make zombies. It's just, once you get enough zombies though, it's a lot easier to have more bodies because you have more, you know, minions to kill things with instead of your cold damage. But this is an absurdly strong combination early game. That's the other thing I'm talking about with the totems. Like, do you realize how strong these totems are? So strong, man. So strong. I don't know why this keeps swapping either. It swaps every 2 seconds. Is there something that I'm using that's... Oh, it's the totem. I gotcha. I gotcha, game. Totem is useful, though. Look at that. So strong, man. Oh, we had the walls on our other character. That's what takes up the slots. Because we used the stone wall and the ice wall for protection. So like this character, you have stone wall, ice wall, unearth, zombie, maybe a lightning mage, and you'd be running out. Like you'd have skeleton warrior, lightning mage, ice mage, unearth, comet, stone wall, ice wall. What are my other skills going to? Why do I have... I feel like I have more skills than I do. Look at that. Not even a chance, man. I don't think I got a thing for that. I don't think there'd be another one in this corner. That's like one ability that you use here, and like you get 3. That's nuts. It's like that would be my pen build up on the second one. That's what I thought. Hey.
Staggering Palm can be used to... With Killing Palm...
Call an enemy. Ice Nova, or I can do something interesting. I think Skeleton Arsonist would be interesting with explosive minions. Because you get the Arsonist boom, and then the minion boom, and then you do the Lightning Mage on top of it. We could go chaos damage, some contagion. I want to try this without using armor break, but armor break is actually really useful. Like the skeleton archer is actually really nice. How many do we have? We have 5. We could go down to 4 and then have an archer, but I don't know how useful that is realistically. Makes him deal less damage. That's interesting. Infernal Cry was still an interesting skill when I first used it on the warrior. This gives me like 4 more damage. That gives me like 3. This gives me 21. That's probably a dumb idea, to be honest. I don't know about that.
I carry few possessions, and I don't have room for that.
I guess it would make sense to alternate on the Necro, since after we freeze them, we can't apply another thing, so you'd swap to Lightning. I mean, I can't say it's terrible, but like, it doesn't feel very crazy. Definitely better, like, if there's like a huge mosh pit coming at me, it'd probably be more effective, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty big thing. So strong. Such a strong combination. I don't know how we didn't hit any of those, but... I don't know what that is.
I cannot. Whatever this was, it's not over. This dark power will return.
Ruby Chong.
Someday. So the cultists really thank you. Boy then.
Icy barrier that gains stages over time. Fire skills. Raging Spirits. It's much like everyone uses Raging Spirits though on all their necromancers. That's what I don't like about it. Super annoying. Can summon 10 Raging Spirits. Accuracy and attack damage. See, this would be good if you were going to use the warrior one. Depending on how powerful this banner got. But it would take dexterity. You might have to use it on the mercenary one. Armor evasion, movement speed. Grants flask charges per second. This is interesting. Dexterity and strength. This doesn't really impact my mercenary that much, but the warrior, this could change everything for the warrior because we have 60 spirit on the warrior right now with scavenge plating and the fire shield thing. This would be another 60, but you're going to be dealing your hit damage to rare and unique enemies and gain Coley Strike against them once you've been fighting them for long enough. So if you had your thorns activated, kill all the small stuff, you're fighting a big enemy, you're going to get a massive bonus to your thorn damage as well. And you gain Culling Strike. So you don't have to worry about that last 30% of a fight. Or whatever it is. 5%. Dancer. Plague Bearer. This is still an interesting one to me as well. Where's the don't know what this is. Alright, I'll go to bed. Too hot in here anyway. Yeah, hopefully that gives y'all some ideas on what you want to do. I would still say, though, if you want to make a necromancer early, best thing I've really found so far, like the most simplest and seems strongest to me, you get whatever character you want to the main first city. You go in there, you buy a scepter from the witch lady. You know, usually she has a pretty decent, like, undead scepter, level 1 and 2 and stuff in there. And then, or just pick up all the scepters that you can find early game and then turn them into magic items until you find one that gives you a bunch of spirit or different bonuses. And usually, like, I've been using those same staffs all the way. Like, I didn't level my other guy's staff up until the very end because it didn't really matter. I mean, it's just two minions that it impacted, really. And then just go into the ice skills, go into the mage skills with ice, because the ice, it slows enemies down so they can't chase you as easily. It freezes them so that they can't move, so you can move away and your minions can kill them and they're not damaging your minions, and they do crazy amounts of like AoE damage and stuff, and they're spammable, and they work really good against all the bosses. So I don't see why you wouldn't use it, and it also helps the in-game stuff, so it's just kind of nice, you know? So like if I come in here, like that's just powerful, you know? And then find whatever support gems and stuff that you want. But like all of this stuff, it seems really susceptible to cold. You can see like minions didn't even die. So y'all guys have a good one, and good luck on y'all's necromancers and stuff. Tell me what you think.